Okay, so today on Reiki Radio, we have a very special guest. Her name is Mara Clearspring, and she is not only a Reiki teacher and practitioner, but also a shamanic practitioner and teacher. And Mara, before we begin, I have to tell you, I'm very excited to have you here because everyone always asks about these two modalities together. So welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited. This will be fun, and it's hard to get me to stop talking, so interrupt me anytime you want me to stop.
Yeah, no, yes. I'm excited to hear all that you have to say. And so one of the first things, just to get it going, I would love if you could share with us how you even got into this work, all of it.
All of it?
Yeah, like where did you start?
I think anybody who's listening will feel like this is a familiar story where when you're a child and you see something glowing and nobody else can see the glow, or you're awakened by a spirit rather than just your nightmares. Or like I would make ritual happen in my backyard. I'd have fire ceremony in my bedroom. I was always attracted to things that I didn't even know what I was doing. I was maybe 11 years old, and I checked out a yoga book from the library to try to teach myself yoga, because where I was growing up, there was no yoga. So I've always been attracted to things of the mystical realms my whole life. And I think everything I've done added up to me suddenly falling into classes where I was learning about shamanism from somebody who'd had a spontaneous occurrence of spirits talking to her as an adult. And she ended up going, her name's Melissa Seaman, and she ended up going from being a lawyer to being a shaman.
Oh,
and
wow.
I made a huge shift in her life, and I ended up in some of her classes, and that's where I learned about shamanism, because until then I didn't know anything about it. It was Bugs Bunny doing the witch doctor dance on TV,
So the shamanism actually came before Reiki for you?
It was concurrent. I'd say first, because I think I was in the shamanic classes about 6 months and before I took my Reiki 1 and 2. And I did Reiki 1 and 2 differently from the Usui method. Mm-hmm. I went to an intense weekend with Hari from the Padma Kahaya Foundation for Reiki Tummo. Have you heard of Reiki Tummo?
No.
Oh, it's a branch of Reiki that was begun in the Philippines by Irmansaya Effendi, and he had a spontaneous Kundalini awakening, mm-hmm. and he just went through all those symptoms that you've heard of before, and he's got this tremendous foundation now, and it has its own flavor, if you will, of Reiki.
Yeah.
And so my 1 and 2 degrees are through that foundation.
I'm really glad that you point that out, because a lot of talk comes up in the Reiki community about lineage. And I always tell people, because I've studied various lineages myself. And I always tell people, no matter your teachers, no matter what you learn, a lot of what you really learn will be through your personal practice and these things. And so a lot of us are familiar that there are various lineages within that. And also, of course, pointing out that energy healing has been done in various cultures prior to Reiki and all of these things. But is there also that same type of situation in the community of shamanism?
Oh, sure. Yeah. You bet. I try to steer clear of it as much as possible, just like with Reiki. With Reiki, I embody multiple lineages. So when somebody receives the attunements, they're getting a whole freaking fleet load of guides that are coming in to help them. Same thing in shamanism. This is why I use the term shamanic practitioner, because I don't adhere to a single lineage.
Okay.
I embody several. So in the shamanic world, it kind of depends on what part of the planet you come from, and even whether you use the word shaman. For example, in North America, a lot of people call medicine men, shamans, but the preference among the people here, the first people is medicine man or medicine woman.
I'm
So
glad you made that distinction. It's
yeah,
very interesting. So then, with all of that, with all that you've embodied, a lot of people are curious because they may come into one before the other or maybe concurrently as you have. A big question is shamanism complementary to Reiki? And actually, before talking to you today, I was thinking that very thing. Like, if you are embodying your practice, how do you really separate the two if you are doing sessions or practicing or whatever you're doing? So what has that been for you?
I think that each healer needs to take a look at themselves, what wants to come through them, and what kind of client they are attracting to them.
Mm-hmm.
So some people really want the purity of Reiki only, and they should have that.
Mm-hmm.
They absolutely should, and I will send them to somebody who will give them that, because I can't keep the two separate for me.
Right.
And most people who have been practicing Reiki on others for a long time will tell you they can't help it. They get information. Mm-hmm. They see images. They watch energy move, and they want to share it with the client.
Right.
And in your purest form, you don't do that. You're just, here's the Reiki. I'm letting it go. It's flowing to you. It's not mine. You're healing. I'm just the instrument. I'm the hollow bone. Right.
Right.
And that's usually evolves into something else.
Yes.
So everybody needs to find their own way of embracing that. For me, shamanism and Reiki are like that. They work together so well. So if I'm doing a shamanic extraction for someone, I'm taking out energy that doesn't belong in them, that they swallowed or got put inside of them. When I take it out, I'm using some form of light energy to fill them up, oftentimes Reiki, so that the wound, the psychic wound, is packed with something that can help it heal. Kind of, we call it like psychic neosporin, that helps it heal. So I think the two work together really well. And each person, as a shamanic practitioner, I'd say, take a journey to your guides and ask them to help you have good boundaries and good presence when you're mixing the two modalities.
Beautiful. And listening to you say that too, another question came to mind. With shamanic practice, do you notice that a lot of people come, is it just a calling that people feel like, I want to have shamanic work done? Or is it usually something where they do feel off, or they feel like there's something else present within their field? Or is it all over the board?
It's all over the place.
Yeah.
Again, that the practitioner gets to put out to the universe, I really want to work with somebody, and my personal experience is, let's say, like I have a student who wants to be a practitioner, and she has a lot of experience with women who've been abused. Mm-hmm. And so she's going to put it out to the universe. I am so available. I have such a compassion bank built for women who've been abused. And so, boom, those are the people that are going to come, and then her practice will end up focusing on that. Yeah. So each person's vibration is going to call in different people. I've noticed for me that there's these waves that happen, Yolanda, where I get a clump of, like, I feel really honored when I get to work with men who have been in the military or in prison. Mm-hmm. And so they're coming into some sort of a soul healing regarding violence. Yes. And really strong, painful wounds that involve other people. So I'll have like a group like that come through. And then I'll have a whole nother group of highly educated women come through who feel this need to embody shamanism and maybe make a switch in their career and become practitioners or build it as part of their practice. So it does turn out to be all over the map, and it can come in waves, depending on, again, on the practitioner.
Yeah, no, I love that you say, someone just called me with this question the other day, similar to what you're saying. And I was sharing with her in my practice. I mean, I had no intention of, this was just to alleviate stress is how I found all of this. And then what I was telling her is I also went through these waves of, I had a lot of experiences where I was seeing energies and entities coming out of people's spaces. And then I would go through another wave of a totally different experience. But what I realized is it kind of felt like I was being educated in a lot of ways.
Exactly. I'm totally on that train with you. Your guides train you by bringing you certain types of people, and the needs are met. That person receives the medicine they need, and you have just built another chapter in your own personal book of experience that then you can bring on to the next person.
Exactly.
Or your next student if you become a teacher.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And so I also resonate so much with what you're saying, because in a lot of what you're sharing, I think it also highlights how important it is for us to allow our practices and whatever type of healing comes out of this to be very personal to us. Because I think a lot of people come into this realm and then put a lot of pressure on themselves to be like their teacher or to emulate someone else or to get it right. And so can you share a little bit about that? Like what your experience has been in your practice and as a teacher with that whole fascination of trying to be the perfect healer?
That's like, could we spend an hour on that one? Wow. It's so beautiful you asked that. I just saw my healer today because, as a healer, I believe that we need to have our own healers.
Absolutely.
That's so important. And he had just put out a video himself on his timeline about this, how we have to just be ourselves. Mm-hmm. So when we try to be someone else, the authenticity plummets. Right. We learn through emulation. Yes. So it's like we're trying on some clothes, we're trying on his way or her way of doing something, but our own way just needs to erupt through. It needs to evolve out of that. Yes. I like to tell my students that I'm teaching them a framework. Mm-hmm. Please learn this framework so you have a safe and reliable and effective way to do this. Yes. And then please grow it. Please talk to your guides and have them train you and expand it out. If someone gets hung up on trying to be like me or like you, it's going to take them longer to get to where they get to be their own strongest, most authentic, yummy teacher, healer.
1,000% agree. And it's so interesting. So a couple of things. One, it's the same. When people will come to me for Reiki classes or even sessions, whatever it may be, I always highlight that I'm giving you the foundational tools, really, but you have to allow yourself to live into your practice and trust what comes up for you and how you're guided outside of class and these types of things. And it's just reminding me, I have to point out, we are birthday sisters. We have the same
Yes, we
birthdays.
are.
Yeah, so everything you're saying, I'm like, oh, of course.
Of course. We came in on the same star beam.
Right. So I want to point this out. I mentioned to you that I've for a very long time have wanted to reach out to you, and everything just lines up when it does. But I want to share with everyone, I met you several years ago, and I came to you for the Muni Key rites. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that stood out to you or stood out to me about you, and why I'm very happy you're here, is you really embody your work. And it struck me so much because the best way I could describe it, in that space with you, that's really the only way I can say it. You literally were the embodiment of these energies, and you could feel it coming through you. And it was so genuine. And I never forgot it. And I really thought, wow, she would be amazing to interview one day and come share with people. So speaking of that, I want to ask you if you can share with all of us, for people who've never heard of Muni Key, how does that fall into your practice, and what is that even?
No problem. I'm finding my starting place right now. Okay. So the Muni Key are the 9 great rites of shamanic initiation that were brought to the West from the Incans, the Peruvian shamans, by Dr. Alberto Villoldo, who you might have heard of before, a writer of Shaman, Healer, Sage, One Spirit Medicine, and all the books in between. And he has a school called the Healing the Light Body School. And my teacher, who gave me the Moonite Key, studied directly with him and has gone down to Peru with him and other people. So the whole point of these rites is to accelerate your healing, your shift, your change, to clean out your chakras. Hello, chakras. Hello, Reiki. To clean out your chakras so that you can be more visible and seen by the luminous ones, which are spirit guides who come in and help us with all this work. So when we're taking on the Moonite Key, we are inviting those lineages to come in and work with us, and we are taking responsibility for how we're participating literally in the whole human paradigm.
Yeah. And one of the things I really loved about that day spent with you as well is, and I appreciate this when people do this, you also gave me tools to work with once I left. So it wasn't just like, hey, I did this thing to you, now the end. You really took the time to make sure that I knew how to integrate this into my own practice and how I could work with these energies myself, which I think is a very important thing for healers and teachers. So I appreciate that, and thank you.
Yeah. Well, it's part of the training you receive when you receive the rites. Mm-hmm. So just like Reiki, if you remember reading Diane Stein, mm-hmm. and how she would have people lined up, she'd do 45 people, she'd give them all a Reiki 1 attunement. Now, I don't know how much training they got, but at least they had the attunement. But we all know if we have an attunement and we're matching that with the appropriate training, it goes deeper, lasts longer. We're more inclined to continue the self-practice or whatever would be the best homework. And that's what I call it, is homework. So the tools that you get with the Moonite Key are homework that keep you involved with the rites, so they continue to expand within you and develop. And those bands of power become these really strong filters that help you keep energy from like sucking into you, but instead becoming useful energy using all the 5 elements, things like that.
Yes. So I have to ask you, your practice yourself, I mean, because you have studied many things, and again, you really do. I mean, just in meeting you, and if anyone is in San Diego and has an opportunity to work with you in person, I mean, you could just feel it. I mean, it radiates off of you. But how has this journey been for you? I mean, do you have recommendations, I would say, for people who are maybe new to their practice or feel stuck or maybe hit a plateau? What has really supported you in going so deep into your work?
Going deep. That's it. Is if you hit a plateau, if you feel that stuck, well, let's put it into like a real world term. I don't have enough clients this month. Well, one of my teacher's favorite phrases is, really, what's in the way? So I have a series of self-inquiry questions that I'll use. I will take a journey. In shamanism, we have this endless reservoir of information and support and healing that's available to us when we go into a shamanic journey and just openly ask the question, what's going to help me right now? And you may get really weird advice. Can I tell you a story?
Please.
Okay. So this is several years ago. I'm on my shamanic path. I'm doing my daily diligence, which was, at that time, I did a journey every single day for self-healing. And I was in the middle of some serious personal misery. So I'm in my personal misery, and I go and I take a journey. Help me. Why'd you help me? I need to get better. I don't like this feeling, and my heart's so miserable. And they're like, yeah, you need to get in your car and go to the bookstore. No, you don't understand. I want to heal it. Yeah. Get in your car, go to the bookstore. There's something there for you. Fine. So I get up and get in my car, and I drive to Barnes & Noble, and I walk in the door, and I go to the very first table, and smack dab in the middle of that table is the book, Ask and It Is Given, which is the channeling of Abraham Hicks.
Yes.
And it's a fantastic book. The first half of it tells the story of how Esther became a channeler. And the second half has like 21 different exercises that help you work with your emotions and breaking through. I mean, it's a great book. Anybody who's in a healing field, and it could be, traditional Western psychiatry or hoodoo. I mean, I don't care what field you're in. Great book to read. And I would I'd have known about it. I wouldn't have gone and picked it up. But my spiritual allies told me, go here, do this, that's there for you. And I was. So that's how you get through those blocks, is you just surrender. And you say, okay, I know something's in the way. Help me get out of my way. Point me in a direction. What do I need to do?
I like that you point out, though, that element of resistance and thinking, because I think that happens a lot to us, where we think what insight may come through, it's not enough. It couldn't possibly be. That can't be the answer, right?
Oh, no. And my other favorite objection to success that people have, because that's, really what it is we're objecting to success. We're saying, no, I can't have that, is, but I'm doing everything right.
Yeah.
I'm doing it all. It should work. I don't understand why it's not working. And it's like, just keep doing it, or change it a little bit. Or, faith takes more than maybe a week or a month of doing this. Maybe faith in yourself is going to take longer. Maybe you aren't having faith in yourself. You're having faith in the practice, but not yourself. I could go on and on, but you know what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah. And we accidentally slip into a victim mode instead of, I saw somebody the other day call it a victor mode, like I'm winning. I'm a win. I am here. I'm breathing. I'm winning.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's so funny. Well, there's a couple of things that I want to ask you too, because you mentioned a shamanic journey, and I know there are certain terms that we all hear commonly with shamanism, right? So shamanic journey is one, and then soul retrieval. So I wanted to make sure to ask you about the two. Could you explain what those are? And then if you could also give us, in your experience, like, what is the point in shamanism? Do you know what I mean? Like, if someone was like, well, why would you even practice this thing?
Okay. I want to answer that question first, because it makes the other two make more sense.
Okay.
In shamanism, and I'm going to put it in terms of me, so it's more personal sounding. I have worked and continue to work to build strong relationships with my spiritual allies, so I can do work at the energy and soul level that trickles down to the physical level. So I'm helping to repair things at the less dense level, the level of light and soul, so that when we get down to the physical level, a person can stop doing drugs, start writing again, recover from a childhood of abuse, attract in a mate into their life. I'm making a change at this level so we can bring it about here. I do that through shamanic journey primarily. I do a lot of different ways of working with energy, but shamanic journey is the classic core shamanism method. Michael Harner, who's the founder of the Foundation for Shamanic Studies and really the big pioneer of bringing shamanism to the West. And that's where a number of my classes have been through, is the Foundation for Shamanic Studies. Highly recommend them. He explains journey. There's several different ways people take journey. I'm sure you've heard of the ayahuasca. It's become quite popularized in the Western world to go take ayahuasca journeys. There's peyote. There's ways of taking a journey where you use deprivation, physical deprivation, to drive yourself into an altered state. We're all seeking to get into the theta wave state. That's the goal of these practices, whether you're starving yourself or taking different types of hallucinogens, psychoactive drugs, or using sound. And that's what we use with the Foundation for Shamanic Studies. We use sound, sonic-driven journey, to literally change our brainwave state from our regular walking, was that beta waves, to right down into the theta waves. And that's that thin line of awareness between sleep and awake. And that's where dreams happen, and that's where we can access these alternate worlds, non-ordinary reality. I go there to meet you, to see your soul, to see your light being, and to begin the work of taking out energy that should not be inside of you, and tracking with my guides where that energy is, that soul energy that was lost, when you're a child and you got bullied, or dad died, or you got lost in the mall and something bad happened to you or whatever. I go back and I find that soul energy and I bring it back for you. because and that's what soul retrieval is. So I take the journey to go find soul parts, or to heal past lives, or cut energy cords, all kinds of things.
Beautiful. And there's something, I mean, there's so much of what you're saying. I was like, ooh, oh. But one of the things I think is very interesting too, it's interesting you mention all the different ways we try to alter our state of consciousness to access different states of consciousness. And a lot of people assume I've done ayahuasca because of the work I've done. I do, but I've never tried. And to be quite honest, I mean, part of it is I'm not drawn to it, but I always think with the experiences I've had just in meditation, I'm like, I don't know if that's for me. But that aside, with the drumming or the different sounds, that's always been very curious to me. Like, and I wonder, through your experience with working with the sounds in this way, is it the rhythmic aspect? Is it the tone? Is it the combination? And do you use different instruments to go into different states? Like, do they create different pathways?
You know, Yolanda, you didn't even know I do shamanic sound journey as a healing tool.
No.
But I play the gongs, the didgeridoo, my drums, rattles, chimes, bells, bowls. All of these things, they do impact you in different ways. From a shamanic point of view, we are looking at a drum beat of 4 to 7 beats per second to induce the comparative brainwave state of 4 to 7 megahertz.
Wow.
So there's a scientific basis behind it. I had my drum here in case you wanted to hear it.
Yes, no, I'd love to.
So we'd be doing a beat like this, because it's about 4 to 7 beats per second. And you listen to that long enough, my clients don't even know that that's what's happening to them, but they slip into that state because they're laying down. Oh, I use crystals too. We didn't even talk about that. There's another hour. But crystals are definitely, my gateway drug into shamanism, totally. But I'll put crystals around and on my clients, so they've got crystal family around them, and I'm beating the drum, and they don't even realize they're in the shamanic journey as well.
Yeah.
So yes, sound heals, and sound also can carry us. We say, did you know the word shaman is Tuvan? It comes from Mongolia, no. And it's not masculine or feminine. It's just shaman, and the drum there. They say that the drum is the horse that they're riding for their client, for their patient, in order to go ride into the alternate realities and bring them healing.
Wow.
So yeah,
that's very cool. Well, now, I mean, and this is the thing, I'm like, goodness gracious, yes, I could talk to you all day, obviously. But now, because you mention it, and it's funny, I'm surrounded by crystals, it just struck me that you said the crystal family, because a lot of people do have questions about crystals as well. And I will say, admittedly, when I first got into this and people kept telling me crystals, and I'm like, yeah, they're pretty, but what's the big deal? So I did go to a crystal shop, and I just kind of asked, like, well, just to see what I felt drawn to. And I would bring these crystals home, but I didn't necessarily use them. And one day I was cleaning my house, and I started hearing this message, and I knew it was coming from one of the crystals, and I paused and I was like, wait, what? And so I literally held the crystal, got this whole, message of something, and I went through and grabbed every crystal individually, and it was like they all had this information. And since then, I've been fascinated by them. So I have to ask you, since you're here, how do you use crystals in your practice? And again, do you have any recommendations for people who are curious about working with crystals?
Sure. And again, whole other hour, right?
Right.
So I want to, because this is Reiki radio, I do want to tie it back to Reiki. So anybody who has people on a treatment table understands there are ways you can help protect yourself and make things easier for your client. So putting stones like amethyst or obsidian under the table can help pull down that energy that they're releasing, give it a place to go. So it's not just like landing around your treatment room and leaving a mess for some shamanic practitioner to have to come in and clean up for you, right? Mm-hmm. So that's one way that you can use crystals. You can, for me, what you did is a perfect example. You hear a crystal talking and you go and you ask it, oh, what are you trying to tell me? Why are you here? Did you want to help heal people? My mesa, I don't know if I can do a good job of showing this. Mesas are medicine bundles that shamanic people will have that have healing tools in them. Most of my mesas, can you see it? It's crystals. Yeah. And all these have talked to me and told me various things that they do to help people. And I'll put them, they can be connected to different chakras. They might have certain types of healers in them. I was working with someone today, and she needed to have some of that grandmotherly, nurturing, reassuring, reasserting of the divine feminine role inside of her, because it had been, damaged, we'll say. Mm-hmm. And I could hear this rock calling me, saying, oh, I need to sit on her belly. This is a carnelian. It was given to me by a Pawnee medicine woman, and it has quartz druzy on it, which makes it doubly strong. And carnelian's good for life force energy and the lower chakras. And I couldn't find her because because she'd fallen over and she was like this on the shelf. So I didn't recognize her. But once I got close to the shelf, because I could hear her and I couldn't see her, then I could see her, So anyway, I think I got lost off the point.
No, it was good. I mean, because I was asking like tips for people who are curious about to work with them, but it made sense.
Listen to them, clear them regularly. Okay, so if you're using them with people, you need to clear them. And how do you clear them? 15 million ways. You're going to find out your way that works the best. But if you're a Reiki practitioner, you should know you could use Choku Rei to clear the puppy. Yeah, right. So you do that. And also you can program your crystals too. So you can use your symbols and your awareness to put a program into the crystal to help people. So it's a great bridge between Reiki and shamanism again. Talk to the crystals, find out what they want, be sure you clear them, and I think that would be a good start for anybody.
Yeah.
Just like you did, where you're just like, what one attracts me?
Yes.
Just find out about it.
It's interesting. I mean, listening to you speak, and I am excited for the listeners who are local because they will have an opportunity to work with you in person.
Hey, I work distance, yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you that. So what services do you provide, and do you offer distant work, of course?
Oh, yes, I do. I do soul retrieval, and that happens in what I call first session. So that's a bit longer than a regular healing session. And that involves soul retrieval. And we didn't even talk about power animals, because that's some of our most major allies in the spiritual world. But I connect you with power animals.
Well, we have time after you share about your work. We do have some time.
Okay, cool. And then I also connect you with a star being. And there's a whole other cool story behind that, but it's kind of Moon Aiki related. And that's an energy angel that helps you stay in integrity while you're developing your beyond the five senses gifts. And so that's basically what happens in a soul retrieval. Plus, if there's any other like past life work or soul contract work, other things that need to happen, that can happen at that time. I don't want to do too much at once, because that can be very disruptive. You can feel really tired and wiped out afterward. Then there's shamanic healing, which can cover any one or more of those subjects that I just talked about. One of my favorite things to do is home clearings and blessings. Mm-hmm. And that can be done distance. I don't have to be there to have it done.
Right.
I've done it for offices as well, and commercial buildings. I love doing that because I get a chance to connect the land energy to the building that's on it, which is like, it's like solar power from the earth. It's really juicing up the place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I also teach. So I have classes that start next week for beginning and they start on the 23rd for beginning shamanism. Intermediate's on the 24th, and then I have an advanced group that begins the next week.
Wow.
So, okay. Yeah. So those are just about full, but there's still a little bit.
And are those the 6-month programs? Because I know you have some intense okay. So first of all, I just want to tell people now they can go to your website and get all of the detail of the work that you do, which is maraclearspring.com. And of course, it'll be in the show description, but it's MARA clearspring.com. Yeah. Now, with the training that you provide as well, I had a question with that. Is there any type of training that is offered remotely, or is everything in person in San Diego?
I do private one-on-one training with clients across the country, Mexico, Canada, and those are precious to me. I have looked at ways to do online shamanic training for a group. Mm-hmm. Actually, it's just a matter of time. I haven't had time to kind of figure that out and put it all together, but I know it's possible. I think Dr. Violdo is doing it right now. I also provide Moon Eye Key local and distance in groups and in person. The 9 rites I install in 2 different ceremonies. I can't remember if you had both, if you just did foundation rites or if you did archangel rites as well.
Yeah, no, I had both.
Okay, yeah. So you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
But so those can be distant or local. Mm-hmm. And the blessings, the clearing and blessings can be distant and local as well. I just thought of something really cool that I do that I love. I love it when I get to work with pregnant women because we can talk to the baby.
Yes.
And we can get them a power animal, and sometimes the baby even tells you the name that she or he wants.
It's really, that's very cool.
It is. It is. It's blown me away anytime that's happened. I can't say it always happens, but it can.
Yeah.
So there's special things like that I can't even begin to describe all of them that come up as opportunities for shamanic healing.
Well, this is a great segue too, because I want to make sure to ask you about the power animals, because a lot of people actually have curiosity about this. My power animal, I actually met in a shamanic journey. So and that was several years ago. So could you talk about that, what they are and how you connect people with them or how they can connect with them?
So when you go online and you type in, otter power animal or otter spirit animal, then you'll find several different pages and resources that tell you about what otter medicine is. I'm just picking otter out of the blue, a random shamanic example. So otter could come in as your totem or spirit animal who's with you for your whole life, or otter could come in as a power animal who's bringing you specific medicine you could use right now. And you may or may not have an active relationship with otter, a year or 5 years from now. Your power animal brings you the medicine that would be helpful to you, the support that you need, so that you are not alone, and it's connecting you to earth energy, earth archetypes that are, if you're shy, so maybe parrot comes in to help you be able to come forward and be pretty and speak out, not be quiet. Who ever heard of a quiet parrot? Or if you're wanting to build your sensuality, you might end up with like a lioness as a power animal who comes in to help you get back in your body and enjoy being this powerful, sleek, live, feminine being, So the power animals also help us when we're taking shamanic journey. They can be a guide that shows us where to go, gives us advice, teaches us the medicine that we're going to give to our client. Our power animals, we can embody them in the 3D world and dance with them and ask them to support us. Let's say you're walking into a really difficult situation. Like we just had the holidays. So let's say that you're home, you flew home for the holidays and you get there, it's like, oh my God, all that old energy and everybody's so stuck in their stuff and they don't see the new California me or, whatever, there's stories. And so you might have you might merge with your power animal to help borrow their strength so you can walk in there and not be judgy and have a more open heart and not worry about how they're going to try to hook you into old stories and old patterns, but instead take you back into you're being in your genuine heart, and you can just see what's good about these people that you grew up. There's got to be something. Your soul picked growing up with them. So there's got to be something, right?
Yes. So there's two things that you just said, of course, that I have questions about.
Go
So
for it.
one, I'm really glad that you mentioned sometimes they, they may come in for a period of time, because that's one of the things no one told me at the beginning of this. And so when I started to recognize certain guides and support, and you call them spirit allies in my space, it was like I felt I was building a relationship with them, and then when they felt like they weren't present, I was like, oh no, what happened? And so over time, I understand now, sometimes they come forward depending on what's going on. But can you speak to that? Because I think a lot of people do have that feeling of like, hey, where'd they go? Or are they supposed to be forever?
You want to put attention on and build the relationship, just like you would with a neighbor you'd like to get to know better, or a new in-law in your family. You'd want to give them some attention. So that's why you would take a journey to spend time with your power animal, or you would maybe put them on your screensaver for your computer or your phone. You might, like if someone was let's say they got a rabbit, so maybe you'd have like a rabbit fur at home now that's part of your altar that's honoring your spiritual allies, and including rabbit. So you put focus on, and you ask for interaction on a regular basis in order to keep that relationship alive. In sorcery, which is dark shamanism, tribes, would be fighting. So the shaman of this tribe would literally try to steal the power animal of the shaman of the other tribe in order to disempower them, so they couldn't do their work. So you can lose your power animal if you let that relationship wither. They're like, I'm out of here, and they're gone. And then you've got to go get another power animal or try to woo that one back.
That makes sense.
Or you're done. You've completed it. Parrot says, hey, you have no problem talking. I'm going to go hang out with the flock, and you've got a bear coming in now because you need to learn about introspection, and we're doing something on that. So
I love that, because I think it also speaks to this whole like evolution of that. It's interesting because all of this work, I think, changes, because I too, like, I've studied various modalities and things, but it's like the practice of whatever you're practicing, and including, the spiritual teams that you may work with, they do shift and change as you shift and change. And a lot of times, I mean, it's just like on every level, things just keep expanding and evolving. But one of the things you said about the going to fly to the family, it's funny because I literally just did that for Christmas.
Yeah, fun. We love you, Yolanda's family. You're wonderful people.
Yeah, but I like what you mentioned in that, because I love also highlighting for people the importance of knowing that we get to empower ourselves. And I think sometimes that gets lost in this work, or maybe sometimes people can be susceptible to thinking they can only be helped by their healer, and missing the component of how do I learn to empower myself. And so I wondered if you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, it's so true. Our jobs are to help people be able to take care of themselves better.
Right.
Our jobs are to help hold a mirror and say, look what's great about you, and here's how you hold the mirror, so that they can keep seeing that. I don't want to build a dependency on me. Right. I want to build an intimacy between my student or my client and their higher power and their spiritual allies, and my job is to teach them how to be able to have better communication with their own personal team.
Right.
Yeah. And that's go, like you were saying, with the Moon Key, or even if you have a soul retrieval with me, I always give you, there's a special breathing practice I give you, and there's a fire ceremony, which is the Moon Key fire.
I still have my tin.
Yeah, because it's a great travel tin, right? Yeah, and it fits anywhere. You got to do those you got to do the work for yourself. If someone is coming to me and they want me to do everything for them, they will do what I call wash out. They will figure out pretty quickly that's not going to happen, and they'll move on to someone else that wants to have that kind of relationship with their client. Right. But that's not what you're about. It's not what I'm about. We want
Right.
people to let's all be bright, shiny lights. And there's a corollary to what you're talking about too. All us wonderful people that are deciding we're light workers, we're going to be doing this work. We have to take care of ourselves.
Yes.
So if we model it, if we're doing it, we're going to attract in people who want to take on that responsibility for themselves.
Yeah, and I have to say, I do think that it is starting to shift and lean more towards that way. Whereas I think when I first started studying this, there was more of a idolizing teachers and things like that, putting people on pedestals, where it does seem like there is a shift where people are now starting to be more curious about how can I do this for myself and how do I work on me. And yeah, so it seems like that shift is happening, and it's an exciting time.
Yeah, we're moving out of hierarchy,
right,
into co-creation.
Yes.
And that's really it. I'm a channel, but it's a big TV. it's a lot of broadband. So we all channel something.
Yes.
Nothing's better than something else. It's more of, let's add it together. Let's make a recipe and see what it tastes like, kind of thing.
Oh, so Aquarian of you.
I know. But gosh, if we build a hierarchy, then once again, we're making someone else responsible for us.
Right.
Or our lives, or some aspect of our lives. Or we're making ourselves responsible for somebody else's experience of happiness.
Oh, that's a huge one. Yes.
No.
Right.
No. I can't. I can only breathe my body.
Yes. I think that's such a good message that you point out, because of, again, I think a lot of us, when we are doing this work and we see how much it's helping us, all we want to do is share. But there's that fine line of when we feel responsible, instead of like just I'm sharing and holding space, but I feel accountable or responsible for your healing. So it's good that you point that out.
Well, we got to keep stepping back from that. I get hooked into it because I come from a codependency background. Okay. Alcoholic mother, alcoholic father, all kinds of other crap. I can't be an alcoholic. I just don't have the liver for it, but I can be a really good codependent personality. Can really master that. So we got to watch for that subtle flavor of it that pops into what we're doing, so that we can keep it as clean as possible. And then there's just endless energy then. Like I have all this energy. I have more energy now than I have in my entire life. And I turn 57 next Tuesday. So I know, isn't that exciting?
It is.
What kind of cake are we going to have? I want chocolate.
Honey, listen, I will bring it to you. So we'll cut it in half, split our cake.
Right. That's fair. I can do that. Oh, that'd be good.
That'd be really, really good. But no, I'm glad you point that out, because I do. And it's one of those things too, I guess, I know we have about 10 minutes left, but I want to point this out as well, as because a lot of us, again, we may have expectations of doing it right and all of these things, and thinking that spiritual means like perfect and pretty. And we do have these things, our challenges, our triggers, our shit will amplify and highlight for us as we do this work. And so I think it's a good thing to keep in mind that no, it's not always pretty. And like, yeah, you're learning about yourself. It just, I think sometimes we could keep it that simple as like, hey, I'm learning about myself. It makes it less heavy.
I think a lot of people are triggered by their own shadow. And of course we are, of course I am. I think we all are. I just, my trigger, the level at which I get triggered is just shifted so much now, because I've been more willing to go into the shadow. I remember when I started classes, Yolanda, where I was surrounded by people that I had just stepped into it, and they've been studying for a few years, and they're talking about, I had this experience where they cleansed, they took all this black stuff out of my chakras. And I'm sitting there going, how much cleansing do you need? Oh my God. And now I understand it much better, because we're constantly producing byproducts, and those have got to be cleansed, and that our shadow is constant. It's always there. Yes. So we get to be more and more attentive. The thing is if we are attentive, it's like that fire ceremony I was talking about. And if people want the fire ceremony just it's on my homepage. You just scroll down. It's a free fire ceremony. But I was going to come up with some contrived way for them to get it. I'm like, wait, it's just right there. Go get it. But if you do the cleansing practice, like the fire ceremony on a regular basis, the power accumulates, it builds. Yeah. So what previously moved the denser layers, and maybe you felt it quite a bit, because when the heavier something is that you move, the more your muscles hurt afterward, right? But later on, when you're moving more subtle things, then it's a subtle shift. But subtle shifts like make a profound change. If you have a guitar that's subtly out of tune and then suddenly you put it in tune, wow, it's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, hearing you say that, it just reminds me again too of like the beauty in all of this, really. And I mean, listen, I went through the part where I mean, literally like screaming and cursing the universe in my apartment back when the same of what you said. I went through the whole cycle of, I'm doing everything. What do you want from me? Like, had that. But it's interesting about how, like, as we move forward, and I tell people this all the time, and I don't know, maybe people, I mean, you start to believe it, but it never ends, but you become more resilient, you become more understanding, and it just is different. It just, you handle things differently and things move through you and you're in less resistance. So the whole thing just kind of matures with you, the process.
When things, I was talking to a friend recently, because I've just, you know, the more you commit to the path, the more things shift in your life and accelerate. And part of acceleration is super uncomfortable. Oh, yeah. So I was going through this period of, you know, uneasiness at I call it like a chakra sickness, where you're like nauseated in your solar plexus. If you have nausea in your solar plexus, everybody, just let me say, that's awesome. Your ego is totally being shifted. You're letting go of some old paradigms that have felt so safe and have just totally gone stale. They need to go away. So nausea in your solar plexus means you're ready to grow how your soul is going to experience the world. So I think it's a cool thing. Yeah. And that's where I've gotten with shadow now. It's like, oh, I'm really uneasy. I feel like I'm going to do something wrong. I'm walking into walls because I'm not grounded. And then I remember, wait, that means something's moving and shifting inside of me. Something really exciting is coming up. Okay, I've learned to trust that, so I can make it through those. So far, you know, I don't want to say it's always going to be this way, but I can make it through those times much more easily now. I have more of a track record, a history of, if I trust, I'm going to get through that and then come back with brand new creativity, new exciting direction, new person in my life, new modality, something new.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm glad you said it, because again, it's funny, like sometimes just hearing someone say it or put it into a language or describe it in a way, it clicks for us. And I think in having you describe it that way, I mean, I'm sure it will click for a lot of people. And it's just our perspective. I mean, we can look at those moments as like, oh God, why? Or, you know, looking at it as like, okay, this is interesting. Something's happening. It moves through us different, and it's a different experience for us. I mean, you still might not feel great, but you know, so
I'm taking it over to the shamanic realms, and I'll say that's part of shamanic initiation. That's why shamanic initiation, one way of looking at shamanism, it's all about confronting death. Die to yourself, die to yesterday, die to your family, be a whole new being, you know, die, let go, kill off the past. And so you will go through initiations where you feel like you're dying. You know, you're throwing up from ayahuasca, you feel like you're dying, you're meeting the spirit of the plant, and it's the death vine, it's showing you your death. You go to have a shamanic journey and you're dismembered, you know, an alligator comes in and eats you. You're dying, and that can be really uncomfortable, but once you've let go of that old way of being and this new way comes in, it's awesome. So even when I'm in, Yolanda, that place, I hate this is terrible, I hate it, I still go, thank you, but I really hate this.
Yeah.
I hate crying, I hate snot in my head, I hate having to blow my nose and it's red for a day, I hate this. But then, you know,
Well, it's so interesting you say that too. And I mean, you just make my mind go boom, boom, boom. But when I
I
first
can see the little sparklers coming off.
yeah, no, really. When I first was having those experiences, I called it coming spiritually undone, because it was prior to
That's a good way to put it. I like that.
well, I had never heard of Dark Night of the Soul back then. So it was the only way I could describe it. I was like, I feel like I'm becoming spiritually undone. And I was telling friends that I felt like I was going through death cycles. And there was a long period of where I kept referring to it as death cycles until maybe a few years, until I finally was like, oh, but then there's rebirth. Because it just felt like I was just dying, dying and dying and dying. But yeah, and then now, I'm like, okay, so there's, this death and rebirth. But it took a while to feel the upside for me, or to have that recognition of it.
I agree. It took years of me just going, okay, I know this is working because other people have affirmed to me that it works.
Right.
I'm not feeling it because, quite honestly, when we're talking about this damage that soul retrieval is working on, or Reiki, or whatever modality, we're talking about wounds that usually happen before we're even 5 years old.
Yeah.
And so what is the state of mind of a person in that age? That now is everything. So if I'm in this now, and this is shadow work, if I'm in this now of extreme pain, that means that will be that way always.
Right.
So we're learning to educate that part of ourselves that believes that that's not true. So that dark night of the soul eventually becomes just one night instead of 1 year. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like what you traveled through, what you just described. Yeah. But it takes a while.
Said. Yes.
Aww.
Yes. But, on the other side, I mean, and still, have like these mini death cycles now, but I'm so thankful. I mean, because you look back and think, I mean, I wouldn't have had the understanding I have now had I not gone through that experience. And I mean, you just have an appreciation for it all as we go. But I mean, I really could talk to you endlessly, but I don't want to take your entire night. So I want to, first of all, thank you so much for agreeing to come and share your work and your wisdom with us. Also, happy birthday, because
happy birthday.
When this airs, it'll be our birthday eve.
Yeah.
Also want to let everyone know as well, when they do go to your site and sign up for your newsletter, they get the shamanic weather report. And that's like a really cool thing that you send out. So can you just tell us really quickly what that is?
Okay, so one of my gateways into shamanism was astrology. And so as a kid, I studied astrology. And now, because shamanism works with archetypes, astrology works with archetypes, I have a new way of understanding it. So when I publish the shamanic weather, it's affirming what you just experienced, because I'll relate to what the astrology just was. And it's preparing you for what you may experience, because I'll tell you what's coming up. Like this super Leo full moon, blood moon is eclipse that's coming up. That, there's always something coming up, and if you know about it, then maybe you can align your energy to take advantage of whatever it is that's coming up.
Right. Beautiful.
And it's just fun.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love reading them. And there's something about that you just said, and I forgot. Oh, the gateway, because you said a gateway into shamanism. It's really interesting how I think we do find ourselves in this, like each one, like Reiki was my gateway into being, curious about everything. But yeah, it's amazing how this happens. But thank you so much again. And could you just give us the best ways to contact you? Website, social media?
Yes, if you go on Facebook, Mara Clearspring.
Okay.
And that's super easy. I also have a page called First Step Shamanic Training. So that's like my business page. My website is maraclearspring.com. And I am on Instagram, Mara Clearspring, and Twitter, same thing. I don't do Snapchat. I just somebody do that for me, okay? I got to get better at delegating. And I have a phone number, 619-972-2469. So all these, an email, mara@maraclearspring.com. So I'm pretty reachable, but I may not get back to you right away. Just kind of depends. I do my very best, though.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you call me, I actually answer the phone, and I will do my best to do that.
Beautiful. Well, I am going to, of
Oh,
course. Oh, go
one
ahead.
more thing, one more thing, one more thing, one more thing. Okay, so I also lead the Shamanic Goddess Circle at the Tree of Life in Ocean Beach once a month. So I will be there the evening of February 8th, and we'll be doing our Aphrodite love letters. So if you're working on your relationship with yourself and building love in your life and attracting love in your life, that is a good event to go to. That's the Tree of Life in Ocean Beach on the 8th. And I'll also, very rare, 2-3 times a year, I do a psychic fair, and I'll be at the Tree of Life on Saturday, February 2nd for their winter psychic fair, and I do oracle card readings and shamanic readings for people. Because I have nothing else to do.
Right.
I just love what I do. What can I say?
The psychic fair on February 2nd. You have the Aphrodite love letters on February 8th. And you also have shamanic trainings that will start the week that this podcast airs. So
yeah.
Anyone listening, go to her site right now.
It's just, I have to update some of the events. But the point of it is there's synchronicity in the universe. Mm-hmm. So January and June is like that for me, because all these things land, and the cycle of classes begins again in January, and coincidentally she usually has some kind of event at the Tree of Life in January. So there's always, June and January are always really busy for me. Mm-hmm. And this is a new way for me to get to share, and it's so how fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And I'm so glad again that you came to share. And I mean, because there's so much to talk to you about, I mean, maybe one day you'll come back and share some more with us, because I know we just barely scratched the surface.
Yeah, we'll talk. We'll figure something out, because this is really fun. And you and I, being birthday sisters, we know how to talk to each other. I hope everybody else enjoyed it. But, you and me, we had a great time, right?
Absolutely. So thank you so much for being here, love.
Thank you so much, Yolanda. Bye-bye.